There we have it, and welcome everyone. I know we have folks coming in. We like to play a little intro video as people come in and get settled into the webinar. But I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to be here live today, and those that couldn't join us, we'll be getting the recording to you. My name is Mark Johnson. I'm one of the managing partners along with my partner Ben Hess in the business. And I was thinking, David, if you haven't seen today's recruiting insight from my good friend Ben Hess and partner, it's about baseball, and the World Series starts tonight. I was thinking, David, earlier I was listening to one of the playoff games, and I purposely decided not to watch it on TV, but to listen to it by radio.
Right.
So I could hear the commentary. And in the middle of it, my sound went out. It's like I couldn't hear the commentary.
Yeah.
And since I didn't have any visual, I was totally out. And it kind of made me think about today, and Ben wrote about it, like without the commentary, which you guys provide so well, the agents are, they don't have anything to say. And then the consumer doesn't have much to listen to, right?
Right. It's a good analogy.
Yeah. So I'd like everyone to write down, before I introduce my good friend David, I'd like everyone to write down, I'm going to put it in the chat bar, the acronym DRIS. I'd like everyone to write down DRIS. Now, if you've been with us and one of our amazing coaches has coached you, you'll know what DRIS is. And if you haven't had that opportunity yet, D is for data, R is for recognition, I is for insight, and S is for stories. So David, one of the things we teach is there's always something to talk about.
Sure.
And one of our things that holds us back in the recruiting and talent attraction effort is, well, what do I talk about?
Yeah.
Data, recognition, insight, and stories. And today you're going to help provide a number of those things with the data, the recognition of the market, some insights from the market, and some great stories.
Absolutely.
But before we do that, I'd like to start with a quick poll. Let's launch this poll. And here's my question for everybody. Is this the market to grow your organization? Is this the market to be recruiting? Is this the market to be attracting talent? And of course, these are anonymous, so no one will know, if you're yes, a no, or a maybe. So don't hesitate to participate, because so we've got about half the audience participating. I'm going to give it one more second. So it'll be interesting to see, where the vast majority of the audience is. And it is, yes, this is the time to grow our organization. We have a couple that are maybes, but the vast majority are absolutely, this is the time to grow. And that's what we're here to talk about today. How do we grow into this market? And so I'd like to introduce my good friend, David Childers. David is the leader at Keeping Current Matters. David, tell them a little bit about you and what KCM is and why it would matter in the recruiting function.
Sure. No, I appreciate that, Mark. Thanks for the time to spend just a few minutes together today with all the folks on here and with you. And as you were thinking or talking about the World Series starting tonight, I wanted to say I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and when the Atlanta Braves lost a few weeks back, I kind of tuned out. It was like, gosh, that's tough. But that brings it back. I didn't even realize that was tonight. So, but that's exciting. So Keeping Current Matters, hopefully many folks on here have heard of Keeping Current Matters. That's my hope. If you haven't, I want to help get you familiar with it. But, we were started 15 years ago, Steve Harney, the founder of Keeping Current Matters, Mark. And the goal was really to give agents and leaders in this business thoughtful and accurate ways to answer questions in the market. I'm here in our office in Richmond, Virginia, and we have a wall out here that says we believe every family should feel confident when buying and selling a home. And so that's what drives us. What's happening in the market? How do we relay that to you as an agent, as a leader, as somebody in the business that's helping people transact, thinking about buying, thinking about selling, certainly in a market like today, where there are a lot of questions that are hard to answer. How do we, let's take affordability right now. That's a hard question to answer. How do we help somebody have what I always call a relevant market opinion based upon fact? Because we live in a world and we operate in a business where there are a lot of opinions. I'll guarantee you that.
Oh, that's for sure.
Very few based upon fact, and that's what drives us, Mark.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I was thinking that as leaders, as recruiters, as talent attraction experts, we solve problems for a profit. And I want to show a slide here because if agents are confused and if leaders are confused, and we can provide clarity, that creates a problem we can solve, and we can attract agents through that. So I'd like everyone to fill in the blank, and I'll give you the answer here in a minute. But blank leaders versus confused leaders. Anybody in the chat bar want to tell us what the blank is? If anybody's in the chat bar, what's the blank? I don't know if I got anybody, but the confused leader, the confident leader versus the confused leader. Or if we go to the next point, the confident agent versus the confused agent. And we know that our success will be determined by our own confidence and fortitude. And David, haven't you found that to be true when in any endeavor we've done, whether it's sales or coaching or recruiting or leading a company, if we're confident, things work better, don't they?
Sure, absolutely. I think there's a couple of things that we notice at Keeping Current Matters relative to this topic. One, being confident about what's happening today in this market, very transparently, is a hard thing to have. You can have it, but it's challenging at times to say, hey, what's going to happen with interest rates? What's going to happen with prices? But you have to have that confidence. Now, here's the interesting thing. Our friend Mark Davidson over at 1000 Watt, they did a study, and we produced some information on this, Keeping Current Matters, and I can give you some information on that as well, Mark, that folks can get from you. They did a study of potential sellers, and they said, how likely were you to move forward, or what was the catalyst for you to move forward in this market? And 2 out of 3 potential sellers said once they had had a conversation with an agent, they were more inclined to move forward. Okay. Wow. It's fascinating. 1000 Watt did this. Now let's go back to your question. What's the hardest thing in this business right now? It's to be confident. And
if we're not confident, whether we're a leader or an agent, we hold back, right?
Well, let me say it a little bit more directly. The last thing anybody wants to do is go have a conversation and not know what they're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. I mean, that's the truth. And so confidence comes from, I have a market opinion. I know what's going on. Don't have a crystal ball, but I can have an educated conversation with somebody, educate them, help them move forward. But the hardest thing, I'm convinced, is to have that and go out and have a conversation. And so I think you're onto something right there. And I think as recruiters, being able to help people understand this is how we can help you have a confident perspective in this market.
Yeah, because if agents are confused, that creates a problem we can help solve for them. So my question, David, for you is, where are leaders like myself and in the real estate space and agents most confused today?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mark. I think we have the opportunity to survey a lot of agents and be in contact with a lot of agents through what we do at Keeping Current Matters. I have the chance this year to be out on the road in a lot of different cities, talking to agents with Tom Ferry and the Roadmap Tour. And there's one area that rises to the top over and over and over of where agents are confused, and I would argue consumers are confused, and it's in home prices.
So pricing.
What's happening, what is going to happen, what is the outlook for home prices. And it's really, really interesting when you start to peel it back. Even Freddie Mac does a survey every month of consumers, and they ask this question, do you believe home prices will rise or fall in the next 12 months. And their most recent survey coming out of September, we wrap up October, that'll be out, is 23% of consumers believe right now that home prices will fall over the next year. Now, that's very, very interesting when you look at it. And if you take a step back over the last several years and you look at our business and you look at what's happened, I believe a lot of people have felt like this is, sort of a replay of 2008. And while we know in our business it's been very, very different, there have been things that consumers have felt like, quick rise in prices, shoot up, fastest rise in 180 days of the 30-year fixed rate mortgage than we've ever seen last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that adds up, and people are like, here we go again. Here's where we go. And I would say even folks on this call likely go, well, that's not where we're at. Don't assume that somebody that you're working with or somebody that is in the business or out of the business would know that as well. Because there were a couple of assumptions that were made sort of by consumers and agents that lead people to believe this. The first assumption that was made was as we went through 2022 and into 2023 this year, is that coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people would put their homes on the market, and price is always determined by supply and demand. That would outpace demand and prices would fall. That was the general assumption. And what do we know what consumers did? They sort of kind of tightened down and said, we're not doing anything. And I can talk in a minute about some of the reasons for that in the market, but there is not a market. I could ask this question fairly confidently. There's probably not a person on this call that says we have plenty of inventory in our market.
Very rarely. There's a few exceptions. Austin at the moment has a build of inventory, but very, very few.
Sure, right. And I know those outliers, but I'm saying by and large, every market across this country, they're like, hey, we don't have enough of it. Now, we can talk about affordability and the things that hold people back to buying, but that's the reality in our business. The second thing that was assumed in this is that coming out of the pandemic is if somebody couldn't afford their home back then, that we come out of the pandemic, there had been forbearance, and we're going to see this massive wave of foreclosures. And if you give me, you do, I was going to say, give me the chance to share. I want to show something to you.
Yeah, then I have a question for you too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I want to show you a look at the current quarterly foreclosures in this country. This is a graphic, if you can see that, going all the way back to 2003.
Mm-hmm.
So quarterly number of consumers with a new foreclosure. You see the kind of the jump up during the financial crisis. Over 9 million people during that time went through a distressed transaction. That was a foreclosure, deed in lieu, short sale, whatever that was. 9 million of those. We come out of that. Foreclosures have fallen every year leading up to the foreclosure moratorium when you couldn't foreclose on anyone. And now we're coming out of that. And what sort of headlines give people the impression foreclosures are on the rise. Foreclosures are double what they were 2 years ago. Foreclosures are climbing. And while that would be factually probably, I'm gonna say it would be factually accurate in what they're saying, it in no way gives perspective to what's actually happening.
Right.
And so I'll stop sharing here for a second. It's having visuals like that, having a relevant market opinion so that you can have that interaction and give people or share with people what's actually going on in the real estate market.
So that was going to be my question for the competent leader versus the confused leader, for the confident agent versus the confused agent. How do the leaders listening in and how do us as recruiters translate this to helping the agent? How do we help, because we know retaining our agents is recruiting, right? How do we help them have confidence? And how do we use it to attract agents to know that we have a relevant market opinion? They may or may not agree with it, but at least we have an opinion.
Yeah. I think it's a great question. It's a detailed question. There's a lot in there that you've asked. But I think let me back up and let me take the long way around on this.
Okay.
Because here's what I would say. There are two options in the market today. And very clearly they are both being taken. They are, roads that are being traveled by agents and leaders. One road is, what do you think about prices? What do you think about inventory? What do you think about interest rates? What do you think about affordability? People can't afford a home right now. One is, gosh, it doesn't look good. And I don't know, we're gonna have to wait and see. And who knows what this market's gonna bring. The other one is, let me share with you what I'm seeing right now. Confused versus confident. Let me share, I'll give you a for instance. One of the hardest questions right now to answer is, what about affordability?
Mm-hmm.
Home prices have risen. 30-year fixed has risen. It's really, really tough to buy a home. In sort of the undertone of any sort of narrative in this country, whether it be news-based or whatever, is older generations have won and younger generations are losing. They will not be able to buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
What's your relevant?
My youngest son feels that way.
Well, yeah. What's your relevant market opinion based upon fact in that? Because you better have one. Either you're going to go, okay, I will tell you this. I have 3 kids. They're amazing. You can see them right over my shoulder here in that picture, if you can see that. One that's 21, that's a junior in college. One that's a freshman in college. He just started 2 months ago and has changed his major 16 times here in the last 2 months. And I have one that's a sophomore in high school. And she's, they're trucking along. And my oldest, his question is, Dad, am I going to be able to buy a house? There are 3 things that go into affordability. And I would write these down if you're on the call right now. You can come to Keeping Current Matters. I promise you, we will give you the information if you want it. You want to become a member, glad to have you and love to have you as a KCM member. But the 3 things that affect affordability are wages, what people are earning, prices on homes, and the mortgage rate that's paid when you buy a home. So what do you believe about all 3? I can give you a fact-based opinion on all 3 of them. First one on wages, wages are increasing. That bodes well for affordability, right? We want to see people earning more money. You can say, well, David, the rate of appreciation is not keeping up with the rate of home price growth. Okay, I hear that. What's my relevant market opinion on home prices right now? We will be, over the next several years, in a much flatter market. There's nobody calling for 10, 15, 20% appreciation within the next 5 years. Matter of fact, the home price expectation survey, which comes out every quarter, it's calling for very average appreciation, somewhere around 3%, 3 or 4%.
Yeah, back to average.
The average appreciation in this country has been 3.8%. Okay, what do I believe about mortgage rates? Well, we're in the environment we're in because of a lot of uncertainty in this world. And there are a lot of people that are a lot better at forecasting rates, certainly, than I am. But what do I believe over the next 12 to 24 months is we will see a lower rate environment. I can't tell you the time or by how much, but those 3 things bode better for affordability than where we sit today. But I have an opinion on it. You have to be able, and you don't have to agree with me. You could say something else, and I don't think that. And here are the facts that I can point to in that conversation. But I think confidence versus confused in this market is having perspective on the issues that affect consumers and affect agents more than anything else.
Well, I know each month in your updates, you have slides that address each of those factors. Now, my good friend Timothy Rush, Timothy, it's been a while since we've chatted. Good to see you. He writes, well, if there was a great deal more inventory, affordability would have more resonance in the market because there's such pent-up demand. It's why homes are selling in most markets so quickly. So, he says even if the rates double, what they were several years ago. What's your thought on Timothy's comment there?
I don't know if he's asking a question.
I think he's just making a comment.
Yeah. I was on a call earlier this morning actually with Lance Lambert, who is the real estate editor, writes for Fortune magazine, Fast Company, phenomenal, brilliant guy. And when you look at statistically at home builders, what's been eliminated from just about every market is entry level product. Lance and I were having this conversation. So I'll show you another graphic that sort of sums this up. We've used it many times here at KCM. And I'll pull it up here in just a second, but there's no doubt that entry level product is missing by and large from every single market. Now you can talk about, what is being put in place of that, but that's really where the gap is. But the really explainer behind the lack of inventory is this graphic right here. Maybe folks have seen it if they are KCM members or followed KCM. This is a look at the number of single family units built going all the way back to the 70s. And the truth about it is we built more homes in this country in the 70s and 80s and 90s than we did in the last 14 years outside of last year. For the 14 years following the great financial crisis, we were below the 52-year average of builds in this country. And there are a lot of very relevant reasons for that. Our business was at the center of the storm in the great financial crisis, but builders were at the epicenter. I don't know if Mark, if you knew any builders back then, but if you were in a builder post 2008, you were in trouble. If you were a consumer that went into a bank and said, "Hey, we want to build a home," they would have run you out of the place. You couldn't even
my
get a
stepdad.
construction loan.
Yeah.
You couldn't get a construction loan back then. And so it's just understanding the dynamics of what drives the market.
So for those listening in and watching the recording, these slides we're gonna get to you later along with the recording. But David, I got a question. So for the leaders listening in and for those of us in the recruiting function, helping agents, whether there are agents or potential agents coming that we want to attract to our company, where's the most opportunity today? Where's the opportunity for us who want to grow our firms using some of the DRIS, the data recognition, insight, and stories that you have?
Sure. I think that's the key, Mark. First of all, is kind of saying, okay, given everything that we see, the challenges that we see, where is opportunity? So we can point to a few things that are true and trending in real estate today. First of all, I would say the biggest opportunity probably right now in real estate is people that are sitting on equity and potentially using that equity in a move up scenario, downsize scenario, whatever it is, but having a conversation about equity. Remember, we go back to what I mentioned about the 1,000-watt survey. People are much more likely to move forward once they've had a conversation. What's the hardest thing to have as a conversation? How do we have those? But equity is the shining star, I would say, of this real estate market, and certainly over the last couple of years through home price growth, right? The advantage of that is equity. The number one way that people build wealth in this country is through home ownership and through the equity they accrue as homeowners. So let me give you a couple of slides on this.
Yeah, because it'd be interesting to put the equity situation in context. I know a couple of your webinars have talked about the tremendous growth in equity and how many people have equity in their homes.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple of slides here. I'll kind of go into seminar mode. I have a bunch of stuff pulled up here on my laptop since I'm just here in the office, and we can kind of have this conversation.
Yeah, we'll just free. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see that one, Selma Hep from CoreLogic. The average homeowner right now has $274,000 in equity, up significantly from before the pandemic. That's on an average home price of about $460,000 in this country. They actually came out recently and said that number is more like 290. So if you're in a market where that's a multiple of that, you can do the math, call it $500,000. And if you're $1 million price point, average sale amount, you could easily double that number. Tremendous amount of equity. I mean, you know, it's very, very clear coming out of the last couple of years that people said post 2008, we're going to do it differently. That is super clear. And they're not leveraging or taking equity out of their homes. So what does that kind of set up? It's this slide right here. 68% of Americans either have their home paid off or are considered equity rich, meaning they have at least 50% equity in their home. You know, if you see this graphic, 38.7%, the number on the left there, they own their home free and clear.
Mhm.
They're just shocking numbers. So when you look at that,
This wouldn't be intuitive, right? Mhm.
this is when you tell somebody this, they're like, "Are you sure? Where'd you hear that from?" Anytime you use anything from KCM, in the notes of the slide will be the source report where you can say, "Hey, here's the report. You can go read it for yourself." So we know there's tremendous amount of equity in the homes across the country. One of the questions comes up as well. That's great, David. Everybody's going to refinance, do a cash out refi, and pull all that cash out, and use that money. That's not happening either. I'll go back to Black Knight right here real quick. Quarterly, on average, about 1% is being withdrawn from tappable equity. Over the last 3 quarters, that's dropped to about 0.4%. People are handling equity differently. Okay, so we know that to be a fact. Remember, I talked about what is your fact-based opinion? What do I also know? Those with equity, those with a significant amount that maybe own the home free and clear, are less sensitive to interest to mortgage rates. I'm not saying it's not a consideration, but they're less sensitive than the person that's going into an FHA product and putting 3% down and constrained by a budget. They're less sensitive. So what do we know from studies that are done? Older homeowners have more equity and are shifted to that less interest rate sensitivity or mortgage rate sensitivity. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And it's being able to have a conversation and say, where is the opportunity? One of the things that I love to do, Mark, is fish. I love to be out and about. And there's an old story about a guy that's asking a fisherman, what's the secret in this lake to catching fish? And the fisherman says, you got to go where the fish are. And I can tell you, Mark, I can assure you the key to fishing is to go where the fish are. There is no doubt about it. And today's market is no different.
Right.
You have to say, where are the fish? So there's equity opportunity. We know that shifts towards older generations. There's Airbnbs that people are like, hey, I wanted to be an Airbnb owner 2 years ago. I can now maybe capitalize on that. I don't want to be one anymore, or legislation. There are several different populations that we've highlighted at KCM that really point to opportunity in this market.
I think AAG, the nation's leading reverse mortgage people, published a fact that 10,000 people a day are turning 65.
Yeah.
And they have equity, like you just said, this equity in their home. And so that's where the fish are. There's a lot of fish in that, they're going to downsize, right size. So let's wrap this back up to, okay, so we got some great information here. How do we translate that to help retain our current agents or recruit agents into our firm by having a command or having a market relevant opinion? How do we have those conversations with our agents?
Yeah. I want to answer that. I want to go back to one thing you said though, too. Going back to the AARP stat, something I would encourage people to write down right now and be educated on. And it's I don't know if you've seen this, Mark, it's the Great Wealth Transfer. And it essentially, over the next 10 to 15, maybe 20 years, I don't have the exact time frame on it, more wealth will be transferred in this country than any time before through baby boomers and passing assets to their heirs more than any other time in this country. I'd be educated on that subject and then understand how it impacts our business.
For sure.
Go back to your question. How do you, in this market, I believe you asked, use information like this to retain and to recruit. On the retention piece, I would be, and you don't have to get it from KCM. I'd love for you to get it from KCM, but every meeting I have with folks, I would be talking about what's really happening in this market, because either we can tell that story or it's going to be told for us. I will guarantee you that. And when you turn on the news, you flip on media, however I look at my phone over here, however you look at news, the story that's being told is not advantageous to us in our business. And we live in a world, I could, if, folks even maybe in the chat, I don't know, if you get an article text to you, like, what do you think about this? Hey, I saw this article. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
The quick way to respond to any of those folks is, did you read the article? And I would promise you they won't text you back because they haven't.
Yeah, they did read it. Yeah, they just read the headline.
They've read a headline that says something that probably is not accurate about the housing market. It's designed more to get eyeballs than anything else.
Can I give you an example from this week?
Absolutely.
So there was a headline that caught my attention that said mortgage applications this week were down 7%. But nowhere in the article could I find how many applications were made.
Right.
It just said they were down 7%. So I dug into it because it got my attention. And last week there were 170,000 new applications made.
Right.
But they didn't say that in the article. They just said they're down 6%, and that's a historical drop. But there were still 170,000 people that made a new application for a mortgage.
Right.
Someone's going to get that business.
And it's a matter of perspective, right? So I would be talking about what's happening in the market. I would get the information of truly what's going on. We do it for you every single day here at Keeping Current Matters. Every single month, we do a monthly market report where you can download that. And you could literally just play that in your meeting. You could do that as far as a retention tool.
And David, one of the things that I had a signature strength in when I was running a brokerage for my retention and recruiting, I had a command of this knowledge. So I used it in the talent attraction retention as well, because there's a lack of leadership out there, right? So some of these folks in other firms, unfortunately, aren't getting the insight. They're not getting the data. They're not getting the stories. They're not getting how to translate it. And if you can provide that, or we can coach you how to provide that or get it, you're going to be just better at attracting folks to your firm.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I crazy?
I think absolutely, Mark. You're right. You use that information a lot in that role, and I think the best leaders today are connected to what's really happening in the market, and they're having conversations about what's really happening in the market. We have a couple of slides here at KCM that talk about existing home sales. If you look at the number of existing home sales, a little over 4 million homes will be sold this year. That's certainly not an attractive number that gets people fired up. But if you do the math on that, that means 11,000 homes sell every day. That's the number. We've done the math.
Right.
If you divide that by 24 hours a day, 60 minutes in a day, 60 seconds in a minute, that means 8 homes sell every minute in this country.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, you go back in the office, somebody's bitching about, nothing's selling, and they spend 10 minutes doing it. 80 homes just sold while you're doing it. I'm not here to say that volume's not down. There aren't issues. There aren't things we have to be concerned about, because there absolutely are. It's all about our perspective. Second thing I want to say in recruiting, or even in coaching agents, recruiting and coaching, the best question you can ever ask someone on a topic, and I would encourage you to be educated on the topic before you ask it, is tell me what you've heard about X. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you know about home prices. Tell me would you mind then, listen to what they hear, would you mind if I shared a few things with you about what's actually happening and where we see opportunity?
That, my friend, right there is a distinction in both retention and recruiting. Right? When we have when we have the confidence versus the confusion. I just did a poll. Are you on track to achieve your recruiting and talent attraction goals? 60% or not. No surprise here. If you're not, we're giving you a formula on how you can make some movement towards that, right? This is powerful way to provide more value in your marketplace and become the to be looked at as, well, Mark's going to have a relevant market opinion. I may agree or not agree, but at least he's got an opinion.
Right. And oh, by the way, let me say this.
Yeah.
I think this is critically important. We're sitting here. I look down at my computer. It's October 27th.
Yes.
In the next 60 days,
Mm.
everybody on this call, everybody that we coach, everybody that we talk to will run into more people that they haven't seen in a while than ever in the history of the year, right? I mean, in the span of the year.
Yeah.
It's
whether it's
holiday
agents
season,
running into
Thanksgiving
consumers or managers running into
Totally.
agents and networking and
Totally. Right. The joke I always make, at Thanksgiving dinner, some of them we like and some of them maybe we don't. But I'll guarantee you, there's going to be an uncle that shows up that's an expert in the real estate market. You know what I mean? And we have to have the information to be able to combat that, right? That I don't know if I'd buy a house right now. I wouldn't be in the business. How's the market? We're going to do, I don't have the exact date, but I just give this to folks if you want it. On the middle of November, I can't remember the date, and I don't know that we've said it. We're going to do a webinar, which is essentially going to be the 6 slides every leader and every agent should have on their phone this holiday season to show people exactly what's happening. Because that's our job, right? To have it at command, to say, hey, let me show you what's going on. Let me be ready to answer questions that are going to happen. And we're going to have more opportunity, whether you like it or not, over the next 60 days to do that.
And when you can do that as a leader, as a manager, as a recruiter, you're distinguishing yourself from the other folks. They're not getting that kind of leadership everywhere.
Yep.
And when we have that leadership, we're going to naturally attract in talent and be more attractive. So we grow. So it just makes total sense to me. Well, how do we have those conversations? We have these charts and graphs now, and we have the 6 things on our phone that we should have. But how do we have the conversation?
In what context, recruiting wise or with our team?
Yeah, let's talk about it from a recruiting or retention perspective. How do we start those conversations?
Again, I think the starter of tell me what you've heard about this, or let's talk about putting information out in the market or out that starts conversations. Like, depending on who you want to have a conversation with, there are several things you can do. Now, I'll give you an example. Keeping current matters. What we try to do is we give agents, folks in the business, ways they can put that out there, whether it be a social post, a video, something like that. You want to get some conversation started? I will guarantee you this. Post something about home prices. Oh, I'm telling you, you might get more of a conversation than you absolutely will get information. Like I'll show you something. I want to kind of scroll through my slides here. Let me see if I have it. Oh, give me 1 second, because I'll show you a graphic that I would use, and I'll even give this to you, Mark, so you can give it to folks. They can download it from you or send you a message. I just used it.
What I did that created more agent interaction on social media of any post I've ever done.
Which one?
I'll share it here in a minute once you do.
Okay, I'll share the slide right here. It's a home price expectation survey. I talked about that. It's 100 economists that gather every quarter and they say, what do you think is going to happen to home prices this year in the 4 years following, right? And this is their estimation. This year, a little over 3%, 2% next year, what I would call very normal appreciation. Post this and say, hey, here's what the home price expectation survey says. What do you think about home price? Oh my gosh, you're going to definitely hear what people think.
People gone wild.
Yeah, here's another one. 2023 year-end home price forecast. Here's what 6 forecasters are saying right now. NAR has actually been updated, and I'll send you the update number. Then when this slide was built.
Yeah.
But positive appreciation in home prices. What do you think? What are you seeing? You want to get people to engage? I'll guarantee you they will.
What I love about this is it creates engagement. And when we create engagement, now you're having natural conversations with other agents who aren't having that engagement from their current leadership. I just did one. Ben and I created a gap analysis. And for our clients, you've seen this. If you're not one of our clients, we'd love to share it with you. But there's 16 things we believe every agent must master to be a master. So I just did a post that said, hey, my partner and I created these 16 things that every agent must master to be a master. Would you like a copy? Within 4 hours, I had 150 agents reach out to me and say, I'd like a copy of that.
That's awesome.
And guess what? I had a conversation with every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So this part about engagement of how the DRIS formula, the data, recognition, insight, and stories, how we create some engagement directly helps us recruit and attract better, right?
Totally.
It's not that complicated as long as you're confident and you have a relevant market opinion, right?
Based upon fact.
Based upon facts. Based upon and we know all of these were based upon some facts.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, so let's open it up to questions from folks in the audience. I know I have a couple here, like David. What are the nature of the agents who are making use of the data information in KCM? What are these agents like? Are they more advanced? Are they? Do you know the agent audience and what our leaders should know about them?
I mean, I think we have all shapes and sizes of KCM agents. Some that, on one end of the spectrum want to be the expert and just use us for that expert-based knowledge. On the other end of the spectrum, just want information to post. But I can tell you this. I'll tell you where I see agents maybe missing it, for lack of a better word, and where I see agents that are really capitalized on it consistently. Where they miss it, and leaders will know this, they get very caught up in one particular thing, one marketing piece, making it perfect, spending 15 hours on an open house flyer, whatever it is, spending an enormous amount of time on one piece of content. I just saw that question by Denise. I'll answer that question.
Yeah, I'll capture them so we don't forget them. So Denise, we'll capture it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I see them missing it. And that's not any surprise by anybody. Even if you're an agent on this, you're probably like, maybe I've done that. Where do I see people winning? Folks that are consistent in delivering a message.
Mm.
Be consistent about posting, about having conversations, about being out and having these sort of interactions. Consistency is key, no doubt, when it comes to content.
Now, in my opinion, one of my relevant market opinions is this is a market where we need to grow and we want to grow, but we need to be more selective.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do the leaders listening in, Ben in his blog today talked about commentators. When you're listening to the game, whether you're listening on radio or TV, the commentator makes the game come alive, right? It's a great analogy. How do we create and nurture great commentators, and how do we recognize them?
Wow, that's a great question. There may be even people on this call better qualified to answer that than I am. But I think it's all about right now, kind of your way I would say it is maybe quality over quantity. How do I look for quality-based conversations? Where are the areas if I'm recruiting right now? Where do I look for connecting somebody of quality with somebody of quality? I'll give you an example. The team example is used over and over in this market. If you're an independent agent, it's like, gosh, I don't know if I'm, cut for this, or I don't know if I want to do this, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to earn income, whatever that is. Connecting them with a team, somebody of quality with somebody of quality. I think it's where that's at. And then where are those opportunities? Because this is a market that businesses will be built in, right? You asked it on the front end, is this the right time to recruit? It absolutely is. Hard time, but the absolute right time.
Well, and I think how you also recognize someone who will be a good commentator is people demonstrate through the interview that they're a lifelong learner, right? They're coachable. They have traits that you can tell. they're engaged, and your current people, the high performers that are using this information, my high performers who used it were consistent. They were curious.
Yeah.
They were coachable.
And a question could be too, to drill down to that. I don't know what questions you're using that, Mark, but what's the last book you read? What do you use to understand the market right now?
Yeah. What do you use to understand the
That's
market?
going to help you understand that. Denise asked, do I know the average age using KCM? We definitely reflect industry demographics. It's into the 40s and 50s. The average age of an agent is reflective of what we have.
So it's not skewed to younger or older. It's pretty much industry average. Now Lisa's raising her hand, but I can't see, Lisa, your question. But if you have a question, just type that into the chat bar. Any other questions? Are we providing some value to the leaders attending right now? Are you getting some value out of this? Give us a yes, no, maybe in the
The
chat
answer is
bar.
no, then tell Mark, not me. No.
Yeah. And any other questions that you may have? Lots of way to translate this to the recruiting function. My challenge, my relevant market opinion is all of this is in leadership and wanting to recruit can have a signature strength. We can have a signature strength in having a relevant market opinion. You're teeing it up for us. And of course, there's other sources.
Yeah. Barbara says never thought of using KCM for recruiting. So cool. Yeah, I think there is opportunity there.
There is.
I think putting information out there, being able to engage people and have conversations about what they think about a particular aspect of the market.
Think about this, everyone listening in. How many on your warm list or your prospect list of agents you'd love in your firm are lacking the leadership from where they currently are hanging their license, where they're not getting this type of leadership? The people here that took the time to come to this and listen to the recording are the type of leaders who know how to have a commentary, who have a relevant market opinion, who can share it. And that's going to be attractive to agents. There's a big vacuum in so many firms today, I see, where this leadership isn't happening, and we can fill that gap. And it is a talent attraction and recruiting secret weapon. And that's why we wanted to bring David today. That's why we wanted to have this conversation. Barbara, I'm glad that the light bulb kicked in to say, hey, I've never thought of this as a recruiting tool. It's the biggest recruiting tool on the freaking planet. if you embrace it. That's my relevant market opinion, David. Others may disagree with me, but
love it. I love it.
I believe that. Now, I don't know if we have other questions, but why don't we wrap up? Tell us just a little bit about the KCM offering and a conclusion, and I want to wrap up with DRIS.
Okay. So I always tell people, like, we'd love to have folks come and become KCM members. I think 5 or 10 years ago, certainly before the pandemic, having this type of information was sort of nice to have. I believe in our business today, it's a must-have. Mm-hmm. So my coaching to you right now is you have to have this information. You don't have to get it from us, but you have to have it. Now, we do it several different price points on a monthly service for $39 a month. Mm-hmm. And the joke that I always tell people is, if you find somebody who does it cheaper, let me know, because we might subscribe to their service. I mean, we literally, most people on this call will probably spend more money at dinner tonight on a Friday night than they would be investing in understanding exactly what's happening in this market. And I believe over the next 12 months, I don't see anybody, Mark, I want to be very clear right now, from a forecasting standpoint, I don't need to see anybody going, this thing's going to be over, and we're going to be back to this blazing market overnight. We've got some headwinds. Now, I do believe they're navigatable. I believe there are answers in this market. I believe there's opportunity, but I think you have to have this information. So I'll give you a website. You can write it down. You can go there. It's TRYKCM.com. You can sign up for a free trial. You can go in there and grab all the slides and cancel. You can do that. And just check out and see if it's right for you. But here's what my encouragement would be. We're right here at the end of October. We're going to go through November, December, January. Everybody's going to have their ears perked up. How do I make this my best year ever in January? Try it for 90 days. Be consistent for 90 days. Get in there and use it for 90 days. It's like working out, right? I mean, there have been so many times in my life where I'm like, I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I don't make a commitment, right? So my coaching would be, get this information. If it is through KCM, make a commitment to try it, make a commitment to use it, and see the difference it'll make in your business and in your confidence in this market.
And I would add, make the commitment to, we know that retention is our number one recruiting. Use it to become better at retaining, and use it to become better at attraction. Now, I did find Lisa's question. She's asking, and I think I can answer this, and correct me if I'm wrong, David. She's kind of asking, hey, will KCM ever change the look and feel of the informational pieces? Maybe she doesn't like the branding or how it looks.
Yeah, I don't see the question, but I can certainly answer it. Is she a KCM member? Because
I don't know that, but as long as we
absolutely change your colors and your information.
Yeah, as long as we keep the source, we can make it look whatever we want to look at.
Whatever you want with it. If Lisa wants to email me, it's David at Keeping Current Matters. I can connect her with a resource to show her how to change the colors, the look, whatever it is of the KCM content she's using.
Yeah. So I want to ask another poll as we wrap up. And the poll is recruiting and talent attraction a towering strength, a core strength of your organization? Would you said, I'd like it to be, no, and of course these are anonymous, so no one's going to see if you're a yes or a no, or we'll see the summary of it. But David, I wanted to say, hey, is this a core strength? And I don't know if you want to comment on that. You've been around the industry forever. Would you coach people to have recruiting and talent attraction as a core strength?
Oh, absolutely. I think I look at our business here at Keeping Current Matters. We're in Richmond, Virginia. We have a team here that is focused on, all the work that we do. But what is my job as a leader? Whenever I'm out and about, where do I get great service? Where do I interact with people that are amazing? And I'm trying to have a conversation with them and saying, is this what you're passionate about, so that we can find great talent? I think any leader in any business better always be recruiting.
Always, I call it ABR, always be recruiting, which to me also means always be retaining.
Yeah.
As well. So here's the results. Is it a towering strength of your organization? About 25% yes. Let's call it round up 25% no, and nearly 50% I'd like it to be. And so if you're a yes, we'd like to talk to you about maybe being one of our coaches. If you're a no, and maybe I'd like it to be, we'd love to schedule a consult with you. I'm going to put a link in the chat bar. Schedule a consult with my partner Ben and I. We'd love to have a consult with you about how we can help you improve your talent attraction and recruiting game, and make that a towering strength. We've just acquired a brand new call center that's going to launch in November, where we'll make the calls for you. We have a new agent solution. We have an experienced agent solution, and we have a team matching opportunity. So lots of opportunities to help this be a towering strength for your organization. I'd like everyone to remember DRIS, DRIS, data recognition, insight, and stories. With that, David, any parting comments?
One, I'll say, just as a housekeeping piece, I'll send you, Mark, all these slides.
Right. Okay.
So you can tell folks how to get them, or if you'll send them out, however that is.
Yeah, I'll send them out with the recording.
Okay. I'll send you all of these slides. My encouragement would be to set some time on your calendar. On the 10th of every month, we do what's called a KCM monthly market report. It is a download of what's happening in real estate. If you're new in this business, or you know somebody new in this business, get them on it every single month. They will know what to talk about with folks as they go through it.
Yeah, love it. And I'd wrap up again with the survey. If you want, if you're a yes on this, we'd like to talk to you about being a coach with us. If you're a no, and I'd like to be, we'd love to help you make it a towering strength in your organization. Quick consult with us to see if it's a good fit and how we can help. We'd love to do that. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of our Recruiting Mastermind. David, I can't thank you enough for spending your time. I know you could spend your time, anywhere, and spending it with me and our audience here. We just thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark, and we're grateful for the support of you and everybody on the call of what we do at KCM. No, that means the world. That we exist to help leaders make an impact. Feel confident about that. So thank you.
All right, we'll be back next month. We'll be publishing our next series. We'll be there. So until then, may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears.